people who can't do it themselves. And that is very clearly saying we need to be prepared to lose. Now, the third point she's making is one, Brian, you make all the time. And we've made this, again, this is also a theme throughout our videos, which is that we also need to win. She says, but right now we can't lose the battles we are facing. And it is that paradox that, frankly, is the reason why I think this series that you and I have done has been so successful. It's why tens of millions of people have watched you and I and continue to watch us, and why I think this is such a public service, because we have faced this conundrum in case after case, action after action through the Trump administrations, the Biden administration, back to Trump. Like, we have talked about this repeatedly, that on the one hand, we need to be prepared to bring cases in hostile courts where we may not win, but it is also imperative that we are perfect. Right. It is also imperative that we always win. And it is imperative that all lawyers always fight. But Brian, to turn it back to your question, the fact that a U.S. Supreme Court justice is saying this is really extraordinary and speaks to the moment we're in.
And that was going to be what I wanted to dig into a little bit. How unusual is it that a Supreme Court justice would this is a pretty overtly partisan political issue. How unusual is it that a Supreme Court would delve into something like this publicly?
Look, in defense of Justice Sotomayor, I think she would say it's not a partisan issue.
Right. She would say this is a pro-democracy issue.
It's a pro-democracy issue, but there's no question that the people on the right, will see this as her putting her finger into or foot into partisan politics. But I think that it is high.
Right. She should be more neutral and just start flying insurrection flags and whatnot. That would be a little bit more appropriate for a Supreme Court justice.
Correct, exactly. But I do think that it is a very, very important sign of the times we live in that a sitting U.S. Supreme Court justice, and not one who's near the end of her career, by the way, this isn't like the going out message that we sometimes get from justices on their way out the door about how people should behave. This is a justice in the prime of her career saying and using the first person plural when she says, right now, we can't lose the battles we are facing. And I think that the courts should be taking a position of being pro-democracy. I think we are increasingly seeing judges taking a position of being pro-democracy. You and I have done videos recently where, you are surprised. I am sometimes even a little surprised at seeing very conservative judges and justices standing up on the pro-democracy side. And I think she is saying, more of that, please.
Right. To what extent do you think that now those law firms, for example, who did opt to capitulate, and it's not just the law firms, we also have news outlets who've opted to capitulate, we have tech billionaires who've opted to capitulate, we have universities who've opted to capitulate to this administration. To what extent do you think that these folks see you can judge people by their opponents, right? And so if your opponent is a Supreme Court justice saying that you have to stand up and fight for democracy and fight for values and fight to preserve the law in this country, when that is somebody who's speaking out against something that you've done, to what extent do you think that they regret making their decision to capitulate because they probably gamed out that it would be, some short-term reprieve or that it would be less painful for them as it relates to this administration?
I sometimes think about the law firm leaders and the legacy media owners the same way I think about the crypto buyers of Trump's meme coins. The only one who makes any money out of that is Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Everybody else who bought the meme coin after his son tweeted whatever he did about it, they've all lost money. Right. The only one who wins when you make a deal with a corrupt dictator wannabe like Donald Trump is Donald Trump. And so you had all of these media outlets that thought, boy, aren't we being smart? Aren't we being smart? We've got Scott Jennings on our air at CNN. We've got, hosts, begging and bowing and scraping as they make pilgrimages to Mar-a-Lago to make peace. And and then, of course, the Washington Post, you've got Jeff Bezos, basically dictating editorial guidelines and them giving a thumbs up.
You have Facebook moving their content moderation to Texas. You have the LA Times. You have the Washington Post refusing to endorse Kamala Harris, even though their editorial team wanted to. You have all of these tech billionaires who lined up with millions of dollars to sit in the dais behind Donald Trump at his inauguration. You have ABC News, who decided to capitulate and hand him $15 billion $15 million by settling a frivolous lawsuit. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Right. So now let's think about it. The tech billionaires, their stock's all down. Like, they've gotten poorer. I mean, there's been lots of articles about how many billions of dollars those billionaires have lost because of Donald Trump.
Right.
The news outlets you mentioned, while newer pro-democracy independent news outlets are growing like gangbusters. I watch with envy the subscriber count on your YouTube channel. Well, it like grows and grows and grows and grows. You watch the ratings and legacy media diminish. And to your point about the law firms, the assumption was that they were the smart businessmen, the ones who were capitulating, that they were making deals and they would be the ones who were the winners. Well, what have we seen since then? We've seen articles come out about clients firing them. We've seen articles come out about some of their best lawyers leaving. And this is to your point about what Justice Sotomayor said. If you're at a law firm that is selling legal services and you have federal district court judges in Washington, D.C. chastising you in opinions, saying basically you may be violating your ethics by capitulating, and you have a Supreme Court justice basically chastising you because you are not fighting. Now, there are only 9 justices, right? They're not like a lot of them to spare. If you're a big law firm, right, you can't cede a justice here or there.
Right.
And you certainly can't lose Justice Sotomayor and have her think badly. And I'm not saying that it will be reflexive that way, but I do wonder whether these law firms, made a business deal that they thought they were the winner with Donald Trump. Instead, it's like them trying to share a banana with a gorilla. Donald Trump ate the banana and they wound up with the peel smeared with feces.
Yeah.
And so I think that this shows, as you and I have talked about in so many other areas, that standing up and fighting against Donald Trump is both morally right. It is the thing to do for democracy, but it is also probably good business as well.
And that's something that I want you to dig into because in effect, when you think of the countries that have been especially successful, it's not the autocratic countries of the world. It's not the military dictatorships of the world. It is the countries who do have a healthy and strong democracy so that we can have a fair system, a fair economy that actually works as it's intended, as opposed to this crony capitalist society, which is the one that Donald Trump is ushering in right now, that doesn't exactly lend itself to this idea that business is going to come in and invest here, which is to say nothing, by the way, of the unpredictability and volatility that Donald Trump is ushering in, because now we have one very unstable egomaniac at the top who is basically dictating on one thing on Monday, another thing on Tuesday, another thing on Wednesday, and that creates an uncertain and volatile market that is going to push away investment. And so even from an economic perspective, when you have this guy like Donald Trump coming in and wreaking havoc, ultimately that's going to hurt as well.
Yeah, and look, this was one of the points I made on 60 Minutes that seemed to resonate the most.
Yep.
It is, I said that, if Donald Trump can meddle in our elections with impunity, and Donald Trump can imprison and send people to gulags abroad with impunity, what will be next? I mean, he'll come for the banking system. He's already come for the universities. He'll come for the banking system. He'll come for Wall Street. He'll decide that there are certain contracts he doesn't think should be allowed to be in place, just like he doesn't think there are some books that should be in libraries. He'll think there are some financial instruments that he doesn't like or that he does like. I mean, he's already doing that with crypto, right? And so you wind up with an economy and an economic system that is entirely at his whim, which is the opposite of what capitalism should be about and the opposite of what, grows wealth for these billionaires. And so they should care enormously. About this. But what I've learned over and over again, to my amazement, is all of these, so-called smart people in whatever industry they're in, they think that they're getting the better of the deal with Donald Trump. They think they're pulling one over on him. And what he knows is that once they cut a deal with him, he owns them.
Right.
Like he can decide that Jeff Bezos can't put the tariff on a separate line on Amazon. He can decide that a law firm that thinks it got off easy is now all of a sudden representing police officers in police brutality cases or coal companies. Like, they don't understand. And I don't get how they don't understand, because it repeats over and over and over again.
Right. Perfectly put. Well, look, you have been a leader at calling this out, whether it's on Democracy Docket, the news outlet you founded to focus on everything voting elections, whether it's on air. I mean, you mentioned all of this on 60 Minutes, on that widely publicized broadcast, or on your YouTube channel. So highly recommend for anybody